Welcome to the Dan Casper Show podcast, your chance to catch the full show anytime, anywhere. If you missed it live on the radio, no worries. We've got you covered with all the sports talk, opinions, interviews, and conversations from the show. From the Packers to the Brewers to the biggest stories in sports and around Wisconsin, it's all right here. This is the Dan Casper Show podcast. Third hour kicks off right now on this Monday morning. Thanks for hanging out with us and making us part of your start on this Monday morning. Hopefully you all had a great and absolutely fantastic weekend where maybe you don't have a worst from the weekend. But if you do, send us your best and worst from the weekend. It's the VFW Post 305, best and worst from the weekend. Text it to us, Shoe Doctors Bullpen Line, 715-830-1912, or Section 105 chat room. Then you can join the crew over there. Coming up in about an hour, we'll catch up with Pete Knutson from the Eau Claire Express. The Express going to be wrapping up their long road trip with 2 games today in Thunder Bay. And then you're talking about the Express staying home for the rest of the week all through Saturday. Also, put this on your calendar. Thursday, July 30th is another Tailgate Thursday with the Express taking on the Rochester Honkers. So we'll have another Tailgate Thursday coming up this Thursday, July 30th. Hopefully it won't rain this time. All right. Last couple times we've done Tailgate Thursdays, we've gotten some showers. So maybe that's the jinx of it. I don't know. But plan accordingly. All right. Plan accordingly. What else do we got on the docket here? We're going to talk some football as the Packers get set for training camp practice to open up on Wednesday. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Shareholders meeting going on today. There's some stuff. So I want to hit this up coming up a little bit later on here. But so Ed Policy, revealing some of the financials. And remember, Green Bay is the only team that has to, since shareholders, public and publicly owned and that. And there were some comments and there were some numbers that I think we gotta put it in perspective here. And I know some people are kind of running away with it, saying, "Oh gosh, are the Packers in financial trouble?" Just pump the brakes a little bit, okay? So we're gonna get to that here in a little bit later on this hour. Brewers back at it tonight, late game, 8:45 first pitch against the Giants. West Coast trip here for the Brewers. 1 week from today is the trade deadline. Brewers fans, if there was a player out there that you would like to see, a player that has been rumored to be on the trade deadline, okay? So not like a Juan Soto or an Ohtani, but if there was a player that has been rumored to be on the trade deadline, who would you like to see the Brewers go after? There have been big names recently mentioned with the Brewers. Adam McCulvey, who covers the Brewers for Brewers.com, said that the Brewers have checked in on Skubal and Mason Miller. There was also an article from The Athletic over the weekend that C.J. Abrams, that the Brewers have inquired. So, I mean, that's big game hunting, big game fishing. So, of some of the names, and it doesn't necessarily have to be attached with the Brewers, just maybe a trade deadline name that has been thrown out there. I think we could take anybody off the Red Sox. So Sonny Gray is probably off the table. Chapman's probably off the table. But is there a player where you're like, oh, man, is it still Skubal for you? What you got? So send those on over. 715-830-1912. We got a couple more texts saying best of the weekend was that Brewers Legends game. I enjoyed watching some of the players that when I was younger, seeing them in action. Billy Hall looks rather old, but maybe could still swing the bats. How about Ryan Braun? Looks like he could still suit up. Yeah, he's in shape, man. He's in shape. I'll tell you the one player I was, and I get it. I mean, they didn't, take the hitch off and run like 100% and that. But I'll tell you what, I was cool to see Ben Sheets. I was excited to see Ben Sheets out on the mound. You don't hear a lot anymore, I think, from fans talk about Ben Sheets or remember Ben Sheets. And I think part of it was just the era of Brewers baseball. The team was bad, but Ben Sheets was good. And I know he was banged up here and there, but I was excited, happy, pumped to see Ben Sheets out there. And I was excited to see them kind of showcase him a lot, interview him a lot, mic him up. It was just cool to see Ben Sheets interacting with the Brewers, a part of the Brewers. And after their game, and he was talking, declared that this is going to be the year for the Brewers. And when he was asked, you come back when they celebrate the championship, and he said, "Oh, you bet." So I thought it was cool to see Ben Sheets getting involved in that. So, Jesus Aguilar, does Eric Thames look bigger now? Like, I'm talking muscular. How does that guy fit in a jersey? That dude, his biceps are bigger than my whole body. I swear. That guy, holy moly. How does he even swing a bat? He looks so ripped. It's like the meme, walking through the door and you can't fit with your arms in there. Is it like the Chris Farley thing? You know where the weight room is? That dude looks more jacked than what he did with the Brewers. How can he swing a bat? Probably can't like in a real Major League Baseball game, but holy cow. Massive pythons. But yeah, they seen like Yo-Yo, Giovanni Gallardo, and Corey Hart. Corey Hart with longer hair now. Did make me feel a little bit old too. I was telling Hudson, I'm like, hey, some of these guys, Hudson, they were playing when me and your mom were just, kind of starting off dating, and that just made them feel a whole lot older for him too, and made me feel a lot older. But I'm glad the Brewers do stuff like this. And they started off with the home run derby. I was rooting for a tie, so it would have gone to a home run derby. But I'm glad that they do this. A smaller team, incorporating getting a lot of their players back, former players back, keeping them in the fold, keeping them a part of the family. Green Bay does this a lot with, in games, they have alumni introduced before every game. It's like Green Bay, and I get it. Green Bay's got a bigger history, a longer history, but I think Green Bay does a really good job with their alumni and keeping everybody, still a part of the team, part of the franchise, part of the family. And I think maybe the Brewers are trying to do a little bit more of that because, when you think about your Brewers players, you think about a lot of the guys from the 82 team. Molitor, you got Raleigh Fingers in there. Then it's the Cecil Coopers, the Jim Gantners. But then there's like some eras where you kind of don't hear a whole lot about those players. And I think maybe the Brewers are trying to change that a little bit. And I think that's good. And I think fans appreciate that too. It's just good to see some of these players getting back into the fray or being more involved with the team. So, all right, let's take a quick break. And let's switch gears here and chat a little football. I want to go through Ed Policy's comments about the financials being released and kind of maybe pump the brakes on some of the narratives that are being thrown out there. I want to pump the brakes here a little bit. So let's do that. We'll take a quick break and be right back after these quick words. When it comes to feeding your family, quality matters. And for great tasting meats, you don't have to look any further than Mike's Star Market in Eau Claire. From fresh cuts of beef and pork to delicious brats, steaks, and all your favorites for the grill, Mike's Star Market brings you the quality and service that you expect from a true local butcher shop. Whether you're firing up the grill, planning a family meal, or stocking up the freezer, stop by Mike's Star Market and experience the difference of shopping local. Mike's Star Market in Eau Claire. Quality meats, hometown service, and a tradition that you can taste. So we got Packers shareholder meeting coming up. And ahead of that, Packers releasing their financials. They have to. Publicly owned team. So some of the numbers that came out, some of the comments from Ed Policy has generated, again, a conversation about are the Packers in good financial shape for the future? It goes back to the naming rights thing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, let's give you the numbers here. This is, again, from Packers.com. Packers remain in a strong economic position despite the franchise's annual financial report looking a little different this year. They had a 55% increase in net income due to a surge in non-operating income and higher operational costs due to a combination of player acquisitions and departures. So Packers reported $132.5 million in net income for the fiscal year. They also reported $133.6 in non-operating income from net investment gains, both local and national, and the NFL sale of the NFL Network to ESPN. But the Packers operated at a loss of $1.1 million. The primary reason for some of that is, well, you look at some of the player contracts and acquisitions and player movement. So, as Packers.com noted, the Packers endured an uncommon year financially due to a combination of player acquisitions and departures. The structures of some new contracts, along with the required accounting of accelerated costs on released and trade player deals, all hit the ledger in the same year, which accounted for the $131.7 million increase in player costs. The national revenue increased $20.6 million to a record $453.2 million, continuing the long-term growth and partnership that the Packers have with the league. But the home schedule, remember, too, just 8 regular season games, down from 9 in 2024. Ed Policy saying, quote, "The NFL is more competitive and more expensive than ever. We want to ensure that our football leadership has every tool in the toolbox to build a competitive roster, and we do." Now, some of the other stuff. Ed Policy did say, quote, "The franchise remains in great shape. In the short and medium term, there are no major financial concerns, and we will continue to do what it takes to compete at the NFL landscape as the NFL landscape changes and evolves, which includes being intentional on generating more local revenue." We're going to get back to that local revenue here thing in a second. We are, however, keeping a very close eye on current trends and how they may impact our long-term financial health. Those trends relate to the challenges the Packers may face in keeping up financially with the rest of the league's clubs, which have access to capital via private equity and limited partners purchasing small, non-controlling stakes in teams. It's like other teams have an ATM that we don't have, Ed Policy said. As the league's only publicly owned franchise, the Packers don't have access to such capital, and their roughly once per decade stock sales raise a small fraction compared to others' private equity offerings. Other teams also have significant public money invested in their redeveloped or new stadiums, which allows them to spend more money on non-capped football operations. From the Packers' perspective, Lambeau Field, which will soon be the league's oldest stadium, will need considerable investment for continued maintenance as well as future improvements to remain a cutting-edge facility. Ed Policy went on to say, "It's critical to have a long-term plan in conjunction with the city, county, state, and stadium district board to keep Lambeau Field both iconic and state-of-the-art." Now, everybody talks about their corporate reserve fund. And it may be hard for us to kind of put this in perspective because this is money that we would never be able to grasp. But it says the Packers now sit at $701 million in their corporate reserve fund. It remains an important strategic asset that the franchise must use responsibly. But again, comparatively speaking, That amount has taken more than 30 years for the Packers to save, while other clubs can raise just as much in the matter of months. That's the big difference. A lot of people will say, well, they've got all that in their reserve. But if it takes the Packers 30 years to save that, whereas other teams can maybe put that type of money up in just a few months, that's a huge difference. That's a huge difference. Now, Ed Policy told NBC 26 that the Packers are focusing, and this is from Pro Football Talk too, but the Packers are focusing on having more major events, non-Packer games at Lambeau Field. They're good for us. They do generate revenue, but they're also great for our community and for the regional and local economy. And this, again, kind of goes to Ed Policy with his concern about the basic financial differences between a publicly owned team and the other 31 privately held franchises. He did say that we want to focus a little more on college football games and premier soccer games. They're just a little bit easier on our field and easier for the field to bounce back from. But we will host concerts from time to time. We're very pleased with the Luke Combs concert. It was actually 2 back-to-back concerts that we held for the first time in Lambeau Field, and we hosted, I believe, approximately 93,000 people. So we are putting more effort towards those events. Very excited about having the Notre Dame-Wisconsin game coming here, but we'll continue to look at those. There will be college football games, premier soccer games. There could be a winter event coming up. We'll see. We're working on that. Potentially. Got to wonder if it's a winter event, another hockey game, outdoors, Lambeau Field. It'd be like, I feel like that's the one area, if Green Bay's trying to come up with other events to do in the downtime, February through like March, April, hockey game. That seems to be a likely scenario. So, but a narrative has been out there saying, oh gosh, are the Packers in financial trouble? Here we go. Let's pump the brakes here. It's Ed Policy's job as the CEO to look at the bigger picture, to look at the long-term potential issues that Green Bay is facing. That's his job. That's what he has to do. And I'm glad as a Packers fan, who's a shareholder too, that don't matter to me. But as a Packers fan, I'm glad he's looking to the future. He's got to have an eye on the present, no question about it. But in his role, in his position, he has to look at that long-term future too. Because gosh forbid we ever get into a time period or into a point where we're saying, oh my God, is the Packers really in financial trouble? We never want to get to that point. We never want to do that. And that's his job. That's part of his job. That's part of his role, is to make sure that they never get to that point. That's why he's bringing up some of that stuff right now. Are they in financial trouble? No. Will they be in financial trouble? Not anytime soon. But it's his job to maybe have that eye towards the future, just in case they get to that point. The NFL is growing, and it's bigger. I mean, look at these franchise sales. Like, what? The Seahawks just sold for, was it $10 billion? That's why you see a lot of these teams now. You're very rarely, if ever, going to see one family, one person be the sole owner of a team. Because these values of these franchises have gotten so high that they need other investors. They need other people. Hey, can you chip in? You chip in a few $100 million and be like a 20% owner of this team? It just continues to grow. It continues to get more expensive. So operating expenses get more, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So he's got an eye towards the future. But right now, we're good. And like I said, too, you look at Green Bay, some of the contract moves that they made, player moves that they made, that's part of it, too, while, because you're going to see headlines that says Green Bay operated in the minus. Look at the bigger picture here. Break it all down. Okay? Break it all down. It's fine. Don't click on that clickbait. And if you do, follow it with a little bit of a grain of salt, but also dig a little bit deeper. Don't just run with the narrative like, oh, God, Green Bay operating in a negative. Here we go. They're going to move. They're going to fold. Stop. Because I've been seeing some people on social media doing that. Maybe some of them are non-Packers fans and having some fun and poking some fun at it. But they're fine. But I do give credit to Ed Policy for keeping an eye towards the long-term future, too. It's kind of a Wild West in an extent because we don't know how just big the NFL can grow. I mean, nothing's really stopping this train, this NFL train. Nothing's really stopping it from continuing to get built, or maybe an avalanche is a better comparison. Nothing is really slowing this thing down from growing and growing and growing and growing and getting bigger and more expensive. And we as fans, we're partially to blame. We're a big part to blame because we consume it. We eat it up. We love it. We live and breathe it. It's why the NFL has been successful in making it a year-long sport. We eat up schedule releases. We eat up the draft. We eat up training camp. Combines. Anything that has the NFL shield on it, give me some of that. It's addicting. So we're partially to blame for this, too. All right, let's take a quick break. And we'll be back with more after these quick words. Nobody plans for an accident, but when the unexpected happens, you want a team that you can trust. And at Superior Auto Body in Eau Claire, they're proud to be locally owned and operated, providing quality collision repair and hometown service to drivers throughout the Chippewa Valley. Their experienced team takes pride in every repair, treating your vehicle with the same care and attention that they would give their own. When you need collision repair that you can count on, choose the people who live and work right here in your community. Superior Auto Body in Eau Claire, locally owned, locally trusted, and here to get you back on the road. Back to some more Brewers chat here this morning after another series win for the Brew Crew this past weekend. Now getting set to take on the Giants for a 3-game series. Big week for a lot of teams here, whether they're maybe trying to figure out if they're going to be buyers or sellers or standing pats. What do you want the Brewers to do? All right, let's kind of do an informal text poll here. What do you want the Brewers to do? Do you want them to maybe make a splash? Go big game hunting? Stand pat? I don't think we want anybody to be sellers. So, or do you say, not necessarily big game hunting, but maybe a little depth from the bullpen. Maybe another bullpen arm or that, but not like a Mason Miller. What would you like to see Matt Arnold and this Milwaukee Brewers team do? You know, you hear a lot about chemistry, team chemistry, and I think there's some merit to that. But I also think there's something to the fact that you got to trust your current clubhouse, your player leadership, and your manager that if you were to add a brand new player to this team, that you already have the structure in place within that clubhouse and within your leadership that it wouldn't affect team chemistry. And I do believe that the Brewers have that in place with Pat Murphy, with their player leadership. I think they have that in place. So do you want to see the Brewers be really, like Adam McCulvey noted? They've checked in on Skubal and Mason Miller. There's other reports out there that the Brewers are going to be more aggressive than they have been in years past. Now, how aggressive? I think a lot is going to depend on what the price tag is going to be on for some of these guys, for some of these players. They may go into this thing with the thought of, okay, we're open to making some moves. But I don't think they're going to be stupid about it. I don't think they're going to just, go in like with a kid in a candy store and overpay for everything. just to get guys in. I don't think they're going to do that, and I don't want them to do that. I want them to be responsible in their moves and not just completely obliterate or wipe out their farm system. I don't want to see that happen. And I don't think it will. Matt Arnold, he doesn't seem to be all about that. I do wonder how much, if there is any, with a team where they're at right now in the win-loss column, second best record in Major League Baseball, and consistently have been up there, right? I mean, they have consistently this year been one of the best teams in Major League Baseball. It's not just kind of like what Boston's doing on this epic winning streak, and it's like, that's why the Brewers are up there. They've been consistent. This was from Dominic Cotorino, who you hear on the Brewers Radio Network. This is just how consistent the Brewers have been here in the last month or so. Dominic tweeted out 31 minutes ago, since June 23rd, the Cubs have won a series head-to-head against Milwaukee, seen Pete Crow Armstrong establish himself as an MVP candidate. They're 19-9 over that time, but they've only gained a half a game on the Brewers. So Cubs have been playing well, very well in the last month. Pete Crow Armstrong has, say what you want about him, and I've been skeptical of him too. He has played a lot better than what he began the season with. Yet they've only gained a half game on the Brewers. It's just like the Crew have this thing in cruise control right now. And you hope that maybe they got another level. They got another, gear to shift into when they get to the postseason. But yeah. I'm trying to, the Abrams, of all the names that have been attached to the Brewers so far or rumored with the Brewers so far, Mason Miller, okay. I don't think that's going to happen, but it makes sense. Skubal, I don't think that's going to happen, but it makes sense. The C.J. Abrams one surprises me a bit. He's under control, arbitration for the next few years. It's just shortstop. Would you move him to third? Does that mean Ortiz is out? Is he just kind of a primary utility guy? I wouldn't. I'm not going to be mad if they acquire Abrams. I'm just curious on the fit. Now, maybe we can look at recent history. They acquired Moustakas and they figured it out later with Travis Shaw still on the team. Shaw, you wanted to keep that bat in there, so he played second. Took a little bit of a hit on your defense, but that was also during a time, too, where you could play the shift. And I think Abrams would develop into a better third baseman if that were the position that he'd move to than maybe what Shaw did at second base. But that's the one name that's maybe surprised me the most so far surrounding some of the names, some of the rumors, some of the reports surrounding the Crew. This is a big week, though. It's going to be a fun week. I think if you're a baseball fan, unless you're a fan of a team that's going to be sellers. But this is going to be an interesting week. It's going to be a fun week. I think, by the weekend, some teams might have some clarity on where they're going to be or what they're going to do. Are they going to be buyers? Are they going to be sellers? I'm just curious how much movement there actually is. Maybe this is going to be a trade deadline where there's not going to be a lot of movement, where there's not going to be a lot of big names being moved. But that's what makes it kind of fun with it being trade season here. The uncertainty. I don't think Skubal gets moved. I feel like the Tigers are just going to roll with this thing and see if they can squeak in the postseason. I don't think he gets moved. Mason Miller may get traded, but it ain't going to be the Dodgers. And I know they're, Edwin Diaz waiting for him and that. They ain't going to trade anybody to the Dodgers. The Abrams one, though. Nationals aren't that far out, and he's still controllable for the next few years, too. All right, let's take a quick break as we start to wrap up the third hour. We'll be right back in just a few short minutes. If you're from Wisconsin, you know there is something special about this time of year. May not feel like it. It's a little hot, a little muggy and such, but you know it's coming. The days are maybe getting a little bit shorter. Maybe the evenings start to get a little bit cooler a little bit later on. But before you know it, hunting season will be here. That means now is the time to get your gear ready. Whether you need a new firearm, ammunition, optics, hunting accessories, or just some expert advice, make Tilden Gun your first stop. The folks at Tilden Gun aren't just there to sell you equipment. They're hunters as well. They know what works. They're happy to answer your questions, and they'll help make sure that you're make sure that you're ready long before opening morning arrives. So don't wait until the last minute. Stop by Tilden Gun, get geared up, and start counting down the days to another great Wisconsin fall. Tilden Gun, helping make Wisconsin hunters the most out of every season. Happy hunting and good luck, and as always, be safe in the great outdoors. We've got about 8 minutes left to the top of the hour, so coming up just past 9 o'clock, we'll catch up with the Eau Claire Express and do our all aboard Eau Claire Express chat. The Express got a couple games today in Thunder Bay before returning home to Carson Park tomorrow night for a long stretch of games at Carson Park as we start to wrap up the final couple weeks of the season. The Express still in first place in their division, so hoping to clinch that second half division championship and clinch a playoff spot too. So we'll chat with Pete Knutson coming up here after the top of the hour. We'll get back to some more baseball talk here as we get set for this 3-game series between the Brewers and the Giants. If you are doing a little bit of maybe scoreboard watching and looking ahead to or looking at where some of these matchups are, maybe you got an eye on somebody that you'd like to see the Brewers go after, or maybe you're just kind of curious to see if this is actually going to be moving week or not. But Cubs are going to be taking on the Cardinals. If you're looking at some division games, Pirates are in third place right now in the division, though, and they're going to be taking on Arizona. Elsewhere, you've got let's take a look at the Twins. Twins are taking on the Royals. This might be an opportunity here for the Twins to maybe move up a little bit more, not only in the wild card standings, but possibly in the AL Central. We've got the White Sox, who are in first place, but they take on the Yankees. Cleveland, they take on the Reds, but then Minnesota's taking on Kansas City, as we said. So maybe an opportunity for them to move on up. But yeah, this is going to be a fun week. I can't wait. So we got some more VFW Post 305, best and worst from the weekend. Best, watching the Brewers Legends game. I agree. I think the Brewers do a good job of bringing in some of their former players and keeping them a part of the family. Worst, this gosh darn weather. I am one who is ready for hunting season, says Greg. Another one, best and worst in the weekend. Best, Hall of Fame, Baseball Hall of Fame ceremony. Worst was seeing Miz not have the perfect game yesterday. That comes from Matt on our texting line. A couple more best and worst from the weekend. First of all, I forgot this text from our Hall of Famer G-Man. G-Man says Brewers playing the Giants tonight. Score will be Brewers 6, Giants 2. Yes, sir. Go Brewers from our Hall of Famer G-Man. Another best and worst from the weekend. This text comes from Eric. Best of the weekend, Brewers winning another series. Worst of the weekends, my golf game was awful. All right. Another texter just has a best of the weekend. Says best of the weekend was watching Randy Wolf hit a home run off of Doug Davis in the Legends game. It was pretty sweet. It was pretty sweet. I love the MVP trophy too. That was taller than Randy Wolf. That's like beer league, slow pitch softball, drinking trophy-esque. I mean, they all got like medals. I don't know. Were they actually metal or plastic? They kind of looked thin. But the fact that Randy Wolf got a trophy that was taller than him and looked like those old school trophies and little softball-esque, even better. Even better. But all right, only a few minutes left at the top of the hour. So continue to send us your best and worst from the weekend. You can text them to that Shoe Doctors bullpen line or hang out in the Section 105 chat room. So we'll get to those coming up a little bit later on. We'll throw a little more football talk in here, too, as we get set for training camp for the Packers. Micah Parsons apparently really likes the new workout facilities in Green Bay. But Packers will have their first practice of training camp on Wednesday. Other teams have been in action, getting things started off. So getting closer. We'll talk some more football coming up in the final hour. And, of course, plenty more Brewers baseball as we get set for this series against the Giants. We'll take a look at tonight's matchup. You've got Brandon Sproat going on the mound here for the Brew Crew. So we'll take a look at that, kind of do a little pregame scouting report for the series going up against the Giants. I want to talk a little bit more about Cooper Pratt, Luis Lara, the two youngsters, the two kids. Hey, they had themselves a good weekend, and they've been hitting really well from the plate. Garrett Mitchell, continues to play well. Joey Ortiz offensively continues to hit well at the plate. Got to give credit to where credit's due, and these guys, they're getting it done right now. They're really getting it done. Andrew Vaughn, even his last 21 at-bats, he's gotten a couple of home runs. He's slugging .619, 286. Bowers maybe starting to heat back up a little bit here, too. His last 20 at-bats, he's hitting .300. Doesn't have a home run, though, but he's been getting on base. Actually made a nice catch in right field yesterday, too. So I want to talk about some of the players that have been really contributing well as of late from the offensive side. Bryce Rank, too. He's .320 in his last 7 games. So, but kind of want to focus on the youngsters here. So, all right. Shot clock is going to cut me off here in about a minute. So, again, we'll kick off the final hour on this Monday morning, talking some Eau Claire Express. Pete Knutson, the voice of the Eau Claire Express, will be joining me, and we'll kind of recap this hot team here as of late, this first-place team, and look ahead to the final 2 weeks of this regular season for the Eau Claire Express. So we'll take a look at that, and then we'll get back to some more Brewers baseball talk. Continue to send me some names. Is there a name out there that has been rumored, floated out there on the trade rumor wire that you would like to see the Brewers go after and target? You can make your picks by hitting me up with a quick message. Make it a realistic pick too. Okay, make it a realistic one. Not Ohtani, not Judge. Those guys, they haven't been mentioned. All right. Has to be a name that has been mentioned in some rumors out there. Who's on your wish list, Brewers fans? Or maybe you're like, no, I don't want anything. I want them to stand